Hey guys, we're going to start a new curriculum. We're going to stop doing Eureka Math for the rest of this year, and we're going to pick up with what's called Maneuvering the Middle. And so today we're going to look at the unit on number systems, handout 2. So the handouts are going to be your notes, and so that's what we're going to work on first is some notes for today. And we've already even talked about this. Today we're going to talk about additive inverse. So make a point at both 5 and -5 on the number line below. So if we're looking at making a point, +5 would be to the right of 0. And then -5 would be to the left of 0. It says describe what you notice to be the difference. Both of these are 5 units from 0. They're also on the opposite side of 0. The absolute value of a number is the distance away from 0 on the number line. So if we look right here, this reads as the absolute value of -5. Determine the absolute value and then mark each point on the number line. So if we're looking at part A here, the absolute value of -8 would be 8, and 8 is 8 units to the right of 0, so right here on the number line. B, the absolute value of -1 would be 1. And that would be right here on the number line. C, the absolute value of 3 is 3. So it's 3 units from 0, and it is right here. Okay, so D, the absolute value of -4 1/2 would be 4 1/2. And this one is a fractional unit, and we don't have fractions marked on our number line, so we have to estimate. So halfway between 4 and 5 would be 4 1/2, so 4 1/2 would be right there. E, the absolute value of 6, so absolute value of 6 would be 6, and 6 is right here. Complete the table will do. Using the table to the left, determine which 2 columns could be added to get a sum of 0. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers here, and we're going to record their absolute values. So remember that absolute value is never negative. It's just always distance from 0. So if we were looking at -6, that would be 6 units from 0. And then 18 would be 18 units from 0. 34, -67 would be 67 units from 0, and -128 would be 128 units from 0. And then the opposite, so the opposite of -6 is +6. The opposite of +18 is -18. The opposite of 34 is -34. The opposite of -67 is +67. And the opposite of -128 would be +128. Now looking at this question here, using that table to the left that we just completed, which 2 columns would we add together to get a sum of 0? So if we add them, we get 0. And that would be our number and its opposite. So the number plus the opposite equals 0. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So when a number and its opposite are added, the sum is 0. This is called the additive inverse. Adding integers using a number line. So notice that our number lines here are not labeled, and so I'm going to think about my numbers before I start just putting numbers down. So I notice I've got 7 and 3, and these are both positive numbers. So I'm going to count and see how many lines I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have plenty of lines to get there. So I'm going to start with 0 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's 7. 8, 9, and there is 10. You can label all of those if you want to, but I'm going to keep it that way for now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to place 7. So we always start at 0, and then we move in the appropriate direction that many units. So if I start at 0 and I'm going to 7, that's 7 to the right, and I stop right here at 7. And then I want to go 3 more units to the right. So there's 1, 2, 3 more units. And so my answer here is 10. And 7 plus 3 is 10, and we know this already. Let's look at the next one. So we've got a -2 and a -3. So we know we're dealing with just negative numbers. So I'm going to put my 0 over here this time. And -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, 6, -7, -8, -9, and -10. Now I've got to model -2 first. So I want to start at 0, and this time I want to go to the left 2. So that stops at -2. And now I want to also go to the left another 3. And so my answer here is -5. A quick way to do this, if the signs are the same, and in this case they're both negative, and you're adding, you just add the numbers, but keep the sign they're given. So in this case they were given a negative sign, so we keep the negative sign. Okay, next. We have 5 plus -7. So I know that I'm going to end up with a negative number because 7 is greater absolute value than 5 and 7 is negative. So I'm going to end up with a negative answer. So I want to make sure that I can model 5 and then still go back 7. So this looks like a good way to do this one. The 0 is in the center. The first thing I want to do is I want to model 5. So 0 to 5. Now at this point I want to model -7. So I'm adding -7, so I want to go back to the left 7. So from here I'm going to go back 7. I'm going to use bunny hops this time because it's quite a bit. So I'm going to start at the 5 and I'm going to go to the left 7 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I see that I've got a -2. So a way to do this one is to take the absolute value and subtract and take the sign of the bigger absolute value number. We talked about the absolute value of 7 is larger than the absolute value of 5. 7 has this negative sign, so our answer needs this negative sign. That's our answer right there. Let's look at -3 plus 6. So I'm going to end up with positive because 6 is bigger than 3 and 6 is positive. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to put a 0 here. I need to account for the fact that I've got -3. Alright, so the first thing I have to model is the -3. So from 0 to -3, going in the left direction. Now I have to model the +6. So to the right 6 units from the -3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so my answer here is 3. So again, to do this without a number line, that would be 6 minus 3. Keep the sign of the bigger number. The next thing I'm going to teach you is something they didn't really put on here. So if you're subtracting, write these notes somewhere down on your paper. Change it to add the opposite. So 3 minus 9, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the first number the same. I'm going to change subtraction to addition. And I'm going to do the opposite of my second number. So my second number right now is positive, and so I want it to be negative. So now I can model this on the number line. So if I'm going to do 3 and a -9, Negative 9 has a greater absolute value, and it is a negative sign, so I know my answer is going to be a negative value. So I want to make sure that I've got plenty of room on my negative side over here. So I'm going to count from 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and so on. First thing I want to model is my 3. So 0, 2, 3. The next thing I want to do is model negative 9. So going in the left direction 9 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So negative 6 is my answer. One way you can do this is finding the difference between those two. Since we're adding and the signs are different, find the difference. So in your head, you're thinking 9 minus 6, or no, sorry, 9 minus 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. Keep the sign of the greater absolute value, which would be the 9, and that's a negative. So negative 6 being our answer. All right, the next one, 4 minus 7. So we're going to add the opposite. We keep the 4, change subtraction to addition, and the opposite of 7 is negative 7. Now we're going to apply our rules. 7 has a greater absolute value. 7 carries a negative sign, so our answer is going to be a negative answer. I'm going to use the number line to model, and so I know I want to go positive 4 and then down. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and continue to number. Now let's model. First thing we want to model is 4, so 0 to 4. Next thing we want to model is negative 7, so going to the left 7 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Our answer being negative 3. So in your head, the signs are different. Find the difference. So 7 minus 4 is what we're thinking. 7 minus 4 is 3. How do we know what sign we take? We look at the greater absolute value, and this negative 7 has a greater absolute value, and it has a negative sign. So our answer keeps that negative sign. The next one. So again, we're subtracting, so let's add the opposite. Keep the first number the same. Change subtraction to addition, and take the opposite of that second number. So it's positive, so the opposite is negative 6. In addition, if our signs are the same, we add the numbers and keep the sign. So if you owe me $1 and you owe me $6 more, then you owe me a total of $7. Let's model this on our number line. The first number we need to model is negative 1. So 0 to negative 1. The second number we need to model is another negative 6. So still going to the left, 6 more units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then there's our answer, which was negative 7. Okay, one more subtraction on our notes for today. So if we're subtracting, it's the same as adding the opposite. So keep the 5, change subtraction to addition, and then the opposite of the second number. And since it's negative 3, the opposite is positive 3. Now, basic math, 5 plus 3 is 8. But let's model it on our number line. The first number we need to model is 5. So 0 to 5. And then we need to go to the right 3 more units. 1, 2, 3. And our answer there is 8. So a summary of today's lesson. So a number plus its opposite equals 0. And that's called the additive inverse. And then, if you're adding, if the signs are the same, you add and you keep the sign. If you're subtracting, well, let's take that back a second. If you're adding and the signs are different, you actually subtract the values and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. And you'll be able to type all that using Cami into your notes. So if you're subtracting, change that to add the opposite, and follow the addition rules. So let's give an example. So if this is our subtraction example, keep the first number, change subtraction to addition, and the opposite of the second number, and then just follow the addition rules that we just went over, which are right here. So the signs are the same, they're both positive. 2 plus 3 is 5, and that would be our answer. Okay, because this is new to us, we're going to go on and look at the homework. I may submit homework separately, but today we're going to do it together. So this is what the homework will look like. It will have the lesson, will be numbered here, and it will say homework, and you will be able to use Cami to work on it. You can draw on Cami, and you can also insert text fields in case you just need to put in numbers or words or explanations. So it's making the best of a situation, guys. So what's the additive inverse? Use the number lines below to write the equation. An equation means that it has an equal sign. So basically what they're wanting you to do is to read this number line and be able to write a problem. And so on this one, we're going from 0 to 2. This is the first number that we have to represent. It's closest to the number line, and so this is going to be 2. And it's going to the right, it's positive direction. 2 plus, the next number is this line, or that arrow, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. So that would be a negative 4. And the answer here is negative 2. You could also use this one as a subtraction. So if we reverse the add the opposite, this could be 2 minus a positive 4. So that could also be an answer there. Let's look at the next one. So we've got 3, and this is our first number, plus 1, 2, a negative 2. So if we're doing it as an addition problem, it would be 3 plus negative 2. And the answer would be 1. If we wanted to do that as subtraction, that would be 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, if we want to look at number 3, our first number would be this one. It's the one closest to the number line. 0 to negative 2 means the first number is negative 2, and we're adding another 2 units to the left, and we end up at negative 4. So if we were adding, that is what the problem would look like. If we wanted to subtract that, it would look like this. Just imagine undoing add the opposite. So changing the addition back to subtraction, and the opposite of negative 2 would be positive 2, and so the green is the subtraction problem. Number 4. So again, our first number is this one, which would be negative 3, and we're going to go to the right 2 units, and we end up at negative 1. If we want to write this as a subtraction problem, that would be negative 3 minus a negative 2. And there we go. You're going to continue to work these bottom problems out. I should be able to see the number line. It does not have to be perfect. Notice that it says solve and sketch. So I'm not looking for perfection. I know it's going to be difficult on Cami. You can do it on a piece of notebook paper and take a picture of it and upload that along with your homework. That's fine too, if you want to do it on paper, if Cami doesn't work for you. And then at the bottom, solve the following problems. You can use a number line if you want to, or you can do things like add the opposite. As long as I'm seeing some kind of work here and not just an answer, that'll work for me.